That takes a hell of a strong person. Asphyxiation takes a hell of, it's not an instant thing neither. It takes a lot of muscle power to kill that person. Struggling, with her feet kicking and struggling. It would take them 5 minutes for at least 5 minutes for her to die.
And we have a few irrefutable facts. Ira Yarmolenko was on the banks of the Catawba River. It's a place where she shouldn't traditionally be. She is dead from asphyxiation, and she is murdered. And she's murdered with items that she brought there with her. Those are facts.
So you have evidence, like facts. There is such a thing as facts that we can all, sign off on. We can all say, yeah, okay, we see this.
Detail is everything.
We know that she stopped at a credit union and then made a quick pit stop at Jackson's job.
Likely drove away with goodwill. She went to Jackson's job, a coffee shop, to visit with coworkers.
Tonight about a body found in the Catawba River yesterday.
See things with a completely open
We
mind.
now know who that woman is, and that she was a student at UNC.
What do we know? What is it we're assuming? Are we assuming she drove herself? Are we assuming she was killed in the driver's seat or passenger seat? Are we assuming that was where she died? Everything is about how do we know what we, 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 how do we know.
Her records showed she'd been to the bank, deposited money, just after 10 a.m.
To assume that
Get surveillance
she drove
videos
herself.
of her there.
We don't really know that.
Just 15 minutes after stopping at the bank, here was Ira again.
So what if somebody else drove her there?
Store just off campus. She gave away clothes.
We assume that she was killed
Seemed not to be worried about
in the driver's seat.
not upset, not unhappy.
So we assume that she drove there alone.
Just alone in her car, running errands. 30 minutes
How do we know
later,
that?
20 miles away, there she was again, in this surveillance video from a YMCA parking lot across the river from the campus.
How do we know that she wasn't the passenger?
That's her in her car,
And that somebody killed her and put her there?
driving toward the river. Had to be.
How do we know that? How we know she was killed there?
Were any of these doors open when they found her?
The jet skiers.
We're being told a little fairy tale.
Here's the interesting thing. This is a strange kind of building mystery.
When we got to 85 up here, we looked back. I said, John, the helicopter's flying over where we go
People
fishing.
are devils, and some people are angels, right? And whenever you have a story which is populated by angels and devils, look out.
So if he came on and talked to us a few minutes, I would say 10 minutes.
I did a long series about this whole business about time of death. Because
And he kept asking us, did we see anything? Could we see the car? I said, what car?
rock solid is kind of crumbling.
I said, there ain't no car here. He said, then he told us a little later on about the car. It was down there against the side next to the river. But I walked out in the water. You could look
was
up
found
there. It
is
was
not
thick, it was
easy.
so grown
It's
up, you just
remote.
couldn't see it.
Ira's body was laying right here. Her feet are down at this end, and her head is up.
She left in her car something she rarely drove.
You find what you believe are 120 pieces
car down a steep embankment and this open. Investigators say she did not fall out of it.
Only to realize it's a 500-piece puzzle.
Police aren't saying it. They found evidence of another
sound that day. Scraping.
And then you go out and get 300
didn't really think
pieces
too
and
much
you
about it
realize
because
it's a 1,000-piece puzzle.
Investigators know someone drove the car down the embankment.
You can see where the front wheels of the vehicle were actually in motion.
Her keys were out further uphill,
March,
and
take
the
a little
driver
longer.
and back passenger doors of her car both
Oblivious
open.
to the terrible crime that happened just about 100 feet away.
What would you say to Ira Yarmolenko's family who feel like there's some sense of closure?
Of both of these defendants was feet from where a recently murdered girl was. They lied about being near it. They were interviewed.
They got the wrong one. The one that done it still out
There was a young man swinging on a vine. He was across the river. They had a vine they swung out on. They dropped in the water. Well, nobody didn't know this little boy couldn't swim.
A lot of times, getting at the truth is not a straight line. It's not. As an old defense attorney in Toledo, Ohio, when I worked there, he used to say, murder is an assault.
One thing it does do is it makes you want answers.
We all felt that we had a really serious whodunit. All hands on deck.
While I was at lunch, I got a tip.
He thinks that sounds like what happened in our case.
Get 3 coffins ready.
I saw this more than an investigation. I saw this as a spiritual journey that was divinely appointed to me.
Or does that just like not fit at all? What's going on here? I mean,
showing
wait a minute,
similarities with that one and what happened with our case was very effective.
You don't forget images. You don't forget the hurt of the family. You can't bring her back to life. It's a case that you never forget. Changed me.
I don't think it's nice you laughing. You see, my mule don't like people laughing. It's the crazy idea you're laughing at him. Now, if you apologize like I know you're going to, I might convince him that you really didn't mean it.
It's just a growing dread that this just isn't going to end well.
Aero Bureau spotted a body that was laying here not moving.
That's the MO of the case we were.
How consumed did you become by the case?
I saw this more than an investigation. I saw this as a spiritual journey that was divinely appointed to me.
But perhaps the strongest element in the prosecutor's case was the emotional first-hand testimony of the courageous young woman who had survived an attack by a... Did you suspect whoever was involved was really familiar with the area?
Yes.
Flowers drape the cross, and on top sits a solar-powered light, so the memorial will be visible at all times. 2 weeks after finding her body on the banks of the Cozzo River, Brenda Priest and Dennis Hill both put up a cross in Ira Yarmolenko's memory. They now feel closeness to the flowers draped to the cross, and on top sits a solar-powered light, so the memorial will be visible at all times.
A terrific family, terrific friends. I mean, she's loved by everyone.
I haven't seen a picture of her yet where she was
So the
alive.
memorial will be visible at all times, and on top sits a solar-powered light.
There's a glow upon the river as the sun begins to set. And like spectators, we fade in and fade out of this vignette. There's not a soul around. It's like a cemetery. Lying, denying a little. Scary. It's hard to believe that we may indeed find those voices. They're keeping time.
Flowers drape the cross, and on top sits a solar-powered light.
They've summoned us here, to this, the shore, step by step, then one step more, one after another, then finally, not a step more. So we search, not for a tomb, but for a solar light, visible by day, visible by night. It rests atop a somber cross, atop this grim loss. Have you any wool? Yes, sir, 3 bags full. One for my master, and one for the dame, and one for the little boys who live down the lane. But is it there, heaven and hell betwixt? We keep searching for this crucifix that flags the spot that marks the time where they found her body lying. Or is this some twisted prank lumbering through the underbush? It's tall and green, our gaze drifts towards the riverbank. Something white and wooden. Yes, I believe, yes, it's there. As firm as the sunset, a little worse for the wear.
Rested up against the stump with 2 doors open. Ira's body was found outside where this cross now sits. The car keys were found further up the hill.
So we have it. A mystery solved, but a mystery gained. The 3 right-of-ways, we now know where her body lain. But where were the fishermen, their fishing spot? How near, how far, that we know not. Locals say it's not far away. Down yonder, behind YMCA, there's a creek. It leads to a hollow. You'll find it, son. You follow? it's important to know the vegetation. We're in back of the YMCA and we're headed down to Mark Carver's fishing spot. It's probably not his favorite fishing spot anymore. And we're going to see so we'll be going down ultimately to where Mark Carver and Neil Cassida were fishing. It's rough. Yeah. The terrain is rough. You just look at everything. It may look peaceful and poetic, but as you can see, we're heading off into the abyss here. It's certainly picturesque, but you know, they don't really like people poking around here. We're going behind the YMCA right now. We're just trying to find a good place to enter the woods. There's a little bit of a waterway that circles behind the YMCA. But as you can see here, we're starting to get into the woods. The waterway that goes back behind the Y is right here. It goes right down to the river where Mark Carver and Neil Cassida were fishing. So we're just making our way back now. So as you can see, there's nothing in front of me except a green highway. I think we'll find a place to jump over that and follow. The spot we're making our way to is really the place where Mark Carver, and there's all kinds of critters here, as you can see. Tracking through spider webs as I can feel them. I may get bit, but as they say, the show must go on. Again, we're traveling behind the YMCA, and I know if I just keep following this creek, eventually we're going to wind up into the fisherman's spot. And I'm collecting spider web. What route they will be taking, behind the line. At a certain point turned into a path. Making our way. Holy cow. I don't know if you can see that. There's a monster spider right there. You have to watch out for some of these. As we get closer to the river, I can kind of hear some boats out there. Not sure if this is the path that goes down to the river that Mark Carver took, but I'll know it when I see it, because it opens up and goes right down to their spot. So, I believe it may well be the clearing that heads down to Mark Carver's spot, because as you can see, this is opening up. Spiders all over them, I'll tell you. Another right of way, and there's the river. I come over here and there's a little path just off to the side of this right of way, and that path goes all the way down the river. That is Mark Carver and Neil Cassida's path. Creeping through the woods behind the YMCA. Just follow that cricket, boy, that's what all the locals say. And I got bugs and spiders and creeper crawlers all over the place. It's a little insane.
Probably backed up right down this right away, came down along this tree line ridge, and then they went right down to the river. My understanding that they backed up right to the river. And as you can see, we're coming down to the river.
I'm down for the ride, still trying to escape. Do a die mission, another 9-to-5 day. Hey, we got fears and who that over there? What do I hear? We alone out here. Get real, yeah. Follow you, follow me, track and trace.
There's an open clearing, and here it is. And here we are. And this is exactly where Mark Carver and Neil Cassaville were fishing. That fateful morning, May 5.
Follow, track and trace. I knew we'd find it, I knew we would. To Mount Holly from Hollywood. We're getting closer, hope you don't mind. We're getting closer and closer with every rhyme. We're gonna fuck around and find out, fuck around and find out. We're gonna fuck around and find out.
This video is to represent the timeline for Miss Irina Yarmolenko. It takes approximately 5 minutes and 50 seconds to drive to Jackson's Java from Goodwill.
To me, it's general. I mean, that first impression that we had of the bike and that was, yeah. But
calling me to take a look at that. We're having somebody today that has biked all through Alaska.
She was just beaming. So, great employee, because it was just so regular that she just had that zest for life. I mean, there's some people, if they have good days and they have bad days, and you can, maybe they're usually really good and you remember a few of the bad days, or they're have bad days and they have a good day that's memorable. She was just happy and going and doing her thing, and, school and in and out, just going, and so, and of course, as you're being a part of her life, you're not trying to think ahead like, well, I need to savor every moment because some tragic's going to happen. About them. With her, that was just true. I mean, it was just that vibrant energy and just the zest and zeal for life, present and just very outgoing and just totally delightful.
This video is to represent the timeline.
And it tears me up to think, because I drive by, across that bridge a lot. I just still drive by there and think about it. It's just like, I can't believe it.
It's Ira. She's standing at the bank counter at 10:21 a.m. She'll need a couple more minutes to wrap up her transaction, get into her car and drive off. But drive off to where? I mean, that's the big question in terms of her timeline, isn't it? Because her next stop is either the Goodwill to make donations, or it's across the street to Jackson's Java to drop off gifts for coworkers. So scenario A, let's say her next stop is the Goodwill. Needing a couple more minutes at the bank, she leaves at the earliest from the bank at 10:23. Then next is captured on camera driving into the Goodwill at 10:33. That would give her 10 minutes to get there. Now we took that same route a few different times. The first time it took us 11 minutes, then 8 minutes, then 7 minutes. But there's a new video on the website under the clues section. It's from the detective's files. It's Detective Terry with the Mount Holly Police Department.
This video is to represent the timeline for Miss Irina Yarmolenko. It takes approximately 5 minutes and 50 seconds to drive to Jackson's Java from Goodwill.
Goodwill to Jackson's Java. That's really the same distance, isn't it? He travels the route in just under 6 minutes. There's another important timeline clue in that video. But in any case, if we average all of those times, we get 8 minutes. So, Ira taking 10 minutes to get there seems reasonable. There's a number of stoplights on that route, and depending on how heavy the traffic was, can account for the difference. So then she's at the Goodwill for a couple minutes, we know. Seen on video leaving at 10:35, and in this scenario, traveling next to the coffee shop. Now, news reports at the time reported that she's at the coffee shop at 10:45 and, quote, last seen there at 10:50. But there's something odd about those times that just can't put my finger on. And then, of course, after Jackson's Java, her car is spotted all the way across town, near the Catawba River, driving into and then out of the YMCA parking lot. She's captured on video driving into the YMCA parking lot at 11:09 and driving out at 11:10, heading towards the neighboring subdivision following Park View Drive. Now that's really a mystery within a mystery, isn't it? I mean, why drive into the YMCA parking lot, turn around, and drive right back out? She obviously didn't get out of her car to go into the YMCA to visit anybody or look for someone. So it's just rather peculiar. In any case, we timed that same route, leaving Jackson's Java at 10:50. We arrived at the YMCA parking lot at 11:16. She arrived at 11:09, meaning she got there 7 minutes faster than we did, which is significant considering the route is mostly over a freeway and we were keeping up with the normal flow of traffic. It suggests we may have a problem with scenario A. We might need to rethink this, because maybe, just maybe, her last stop in the campus area that morning was not Jackson's Java, as seemed to be the prevailing narrative at the time, but was rather the Goodwill. So let's back up and try this again. Scenario B, she's driving away from the bank, heading next, this time, across the street to the coffee shop. That puts her at Jackson's Java at right around 10:24-ish.
She was there a few minutes. That was about it.
That was it. So it wasn't like she sat down.
But she stopped there. But she was in and out. I mean, it was just like she finished class. It was morning. I don't know, 10, I can't remember now.
So she's there for just a couple minutes, and in this scenario now she's leaving Jackson's Java. Must have been 10:26, 10:27-ish. She's heading next, this time, to the Goodwill. Once again, seen driving into the Goodwill at 10:33. That means it took her 6 or 7 minutes to get there.
So the exam was this time period, and that it was.
And the date of her death is
Monday, May 5.
You know, I remember finding the written work written by her.
Okay.
With mistakes, but
okay.
You know who doesn't make mistakes in Russian?
Right.
Everyone does. And I didn't really know what to do with this paper, because I felt like, oh, if I give it to Masha, there will be, it was back then, it will be something unpredictable. She was already grieving the way no friend grieves. Finding Irina's mother, it's even hurting more. I remember that I couldn't get rid of this paper for a long, long time, not knowing what to do with it.
And we know the travel path from the coffee shop to the Goodwill is the same distance as from the bank to the Goodwill, since the coffee shop is right across the street from the bank. And again, we know the average travel time to get to the Goodwill from that area is 8 minutes. So based on traffic lights and how light the traffic may have been, Ira taking 6 or 7 minutes to arrive at the Goodwill from the coffee shop seems reasonable. And again, she's at the Goodwill for a couple minutes, seen driving away at 10:35, captured on video, heading, in this scenario, to the river.
Yeah, we were classmates, actually. Went to middle school together and freshman year of high school together.
Someone passing away at age 20, you know, like we both were, it's certainly hard for anyone to understand that and, you know, see it happen to someone that you went to school with. It was hard for everybody around the community, but it did bring some people closer together, which is, you know, the one thing that, you know, I think she would be proud of. You know, I definitely reconnected with some friends that I'd lost contact with that happening. So.
After leaving the Goodwill, about a half an hour later, there she is driving into the YMCA parking lot by the river. She arrives at 11:09. But we traveled that same path and arrived at the YMCA parking lot at 11 o'clock. That's 9 minutes ahead of her.
You know, it was a special way to honor her, but I felt like I wanted to say goodbye, you know, and definitely glad that happened. You know, the song was titled Without You Here by Goo Goo Dolls. You know, they're one of my favorite bands, and I just thought, I mean, that was how people were going to have to adapt, right? They were going to have to get used to, you know, living life without her here.
So we're 9 minutes off there. So it seems we have a problem in both scenarios, don't we? I mean, traveling to the river from Jackson's Java, she gets to the river 7 minutes ahead of us. But traveling there from the Goodwill, she gets there 9 minutes behind us. These differences are significant because we're traveling again mostly on the freeways, keeping up with the normal flow of traffic. So where's the weakest link in our timeline chain? It has to be the coffee shop, right? Because it's the only place we don't have her on camera with a timestamp. The news reports coming out at that time says she's at Jackson's Java at 10:45 or 10:50. But where would they have gotten that information? They could have gotten it from the cops, but where did they get their information?
They dropped off the book, and I think we only had the one employee there at the time.
And maybe employee.
Was he an employee?
No, he's a professor.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
So, only one employee working there at the time, may have been another patron, but that time at the coffee shop must have come from one of them. Who else would it have come from? And we can play that scenario back in our minds.
I watched it last week with my girlfriend here, you know, because I hadn't seen it in so long, but it was definitely you know, touching even all these years later, just to see, I don't know, just like how much more life she had, you know, and she was such a positive person, and I definitely think she was going places, you know, in life. She had so much potential and just made everyone feel really good about themselves, you know, when you were around her. She had a real positive spirit about her.
It's a slow Monday morning at the coffee shop, and you're the only worker there. Ira stops in to drop off a gift. She's there for just a few minutes. Now, generally speaking, I'm not going to look at my watch and go, oh, Ira just arrived, it's 10:45, and oh, she's leaving, it's 10:50. No. Now, it's likely that those times were estimated by the employee after the fact, after the tragedy had taken place, when asked to make her best guess as to when Ira was there. It could only have been a guess unless the employee specifically looked at her watch, which seems unlikely.
some photographs, one photograph, not some photographs, but pictures do not convey her charm. You know, sometimes there are people who are photogenic and you see a wonderful, beautiful person in the picture. She looks okay, but in life there was really something special about her. It's not like classic beauty, it's just something shining from within.
So the employee guessing at the time Ira was there after the fact when asked to recall is obviously prone to error and is therefore the weakest link in the timeline chain. Could the employee's best guess easily been 15, 20 minutes off? Because if it was, that puts Ira at the coffee shop at 10:30 or 10:25, which supports scenario B where Ira travels from the bank to the coffee shop next and not the Goodwill. Additionally, being at the coffee shop at 10:50 would require Ira to leave the coffee shop immediately, jump into her car, and speed all the way across the freeway down to the river to make it to the YMCA by 11:09. It seems a little off. It doesn't seem to fit. Remember the words of Dr. Watson.
What's going on here? Well, wait a minute. Does that fit? Or does that just not fit at all? Everything about the context. Everything about the context of where something is found.
You'll also remember WSOC Charlotte's Channel 9 investigative reporter Ken Lemon, who we spoke to in previous episodes.
Here's the interesting thing. This is a strange kind of building mystery. But one thing it does do is it makes you want answers.
And he's been close to this story since day one, but we found someone even closer to the scene that day, who was actually on the river shore as detectives were arriving. We're leaving the fishing spot right now to go and talk to him. Perhaps he can help answer some questions. But what might we ask him to help make the pieces of this puzzle fit?
A thought crossed my mind, but probably another thing that made Ira so special, she was one of very few people, if there are people like that at all, who believed that the world is a wonderful place.